You mentioned corporal punishment still being used by a lot of families around the country. It was used on us. People think that we need to do that, but we should talk about like why this is done. I think with corporal punishment, it's pretty clear. We are using our power to hurt our kids so that they will be disincentivized to do whatever they did before. But that ultimately corporal punishment, as well as other kinds of punishment, which are also designed to make our kids either hurt or feel bad or miss something or in some way to disincentivize them, they're ultimately not that effective, right? And we can talk about that. I'm just going to mention from the kind of the nervous system point of view, where we talk about the nervous system a lot here, where when these things, they put our kids into fight, flight, or freeze, they scare our kids. And so anything that's scaring our kids is instantly making it so they can't learn whatever it is we want them to learn in that moment, right? So if we think about if they're doing some behavior that we don't want, we want them to learn to do something better, a positive behavior. We want to teach them and have them learn what it is they need to learn. And if we hit them, if we yell at them, if we scream at them, if we threaten to take their iPad away, then they go into, it's like biological instant response into fight, flight, or freeze. And their brain is not then, the limbic system is not talking to the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is where all the learning, all the good decision-making, verbal ability, all that stuff takes place. So I think that for me, that's such a practical reason in that your kid may do the behavior in that moment, but they're actually not learning something in the long run. They're not learning the positive behavior. Wendy, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah.
These are the reasons why we want to shift out of punishment. Does it actually work, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love your work so much, Hunter, because you do help us all so much with settling our nervous system, which really is so much of the basis of to be able to do this, right? Because there's the believing that it needs to still happen, punishment. And then that's the first hurdle you get over where you're like, oh, I no longer believe that I need to make my child feel worse in order to make them behave better. That's the first hurdle, but that takes some mindset work. And then the next one is, I believe this, but I'm still knee-jerk reactioning a lot. So it's like a multi-step process. But yeah, when I think to like why we want to do this, as you were speaking, I'm thinking like, yes, there's two things that happen. We get to have a settled nervous system when we teach in this way, which is such a blessing. And every single parent on the planet deserves to have peace in their home and their body, even when conflict arises, right? As you said, even people have been in this work for a long time. We have kids the same ages. There is still conflict. There is still kids that don't want to clean their room or do the dishes or late to whatever, right? Like it still happens, but to be able to have peace and confidence and to be able to be settled and handle yourself with integrity during those heightened moments, that's something every parent deserves. And when there's punishment present, it's just not happening. And then the second thing is just to be totally honest. We all want what we want to get what we want. Like every single human is out to get what they want. Like we're trying to influence people to do what we want. There is no shame in that, right? It's like one way to feel powerful, but we're just trying to influence each other all the time. And if we want our children to do what we want, we've got to teach them how, not just stop it, especially the strong-willed ones, because the strong-willed ones, when they feel pressured and judged, they will dig their feet in the mud and they will resist change. But when we teach them how to, that comes in like the calm times, that comes in connection, that comes in helping them feel like they belong and you understand them even after they've made a mistake. When you teach, then they actually have a chance at doing it different tomorrow. So they are home for their curfew. So they do keep their hands to themselves when they're frustrated with their brother and sister. So it's just a way to get what you want. And I know that may sound selfish, but come on, let's be honest. We all just want our kids to clean up their room and put their dishes away and keep their hands to themselves, right? Of course, we want this higher. We want our children to feel loved unconditionally and respected and grow up with self-confidence and not have shame in their lives. So many of us do, very thick from being raised with punishment and unconditional love. We want all that. But right at the forefront, like, just know that this will help you get what you want. And we all want our kids to have life skills that they need in order to live with integrity, kindness, compassion, gentleness, self-control, self-regulation, all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for framing it that way. I think that's awesome. And we also don't want them to not resent us. We want them to not hate us. We want to have a good relationship.
Yes. Yes, that's a big one. You're
with
right.
our kids. We don't want to feel like terrible people when we go to bed at night. We want to actually get along with our kids. We want to have good time. We want it to be positive. We don't want it to be like a never ending slog of misery and control, right? Like that. We don't want that resentment. And because the resentment builds, I think that's really where that teen rebellion comes from that we were talking about, like seeing the fruits of this labor is like seeing the lack of I hate you and I resent you and I resent all the tactics you've used my whole life, right? We're seeing the opposite of that. And we talked about that in being, but that's something that we want, right?